Alrighty, I apologize for the late start. Been a crazy day. Had some post-its, that was the little thing blocking my camera. But hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Couch Warrior Podcast Fantasy Edition. I am your host Mike, and today we're going to break down UFC 274 from a fantasy app perspective. The two apps in particular that we go over is PrizePicks and DraftKings. Everybody knows what DraftKings is. PrizePicks is my personal favorite fantasy app. It allows you to bet on player props like the over on takedowns or the over on strikes and whatnot. You could bet the over on the and under on time and over under on the PrizePicks fantasy score. So it's a really interesting app. It's my favorite one to use and play with. There's a ton of good shows covering DraftKings. I would say that I'm just like, I have my own takes, but there's some other great shows. But luckily, as of now, I think I'm the only person doing PrizePicks charts and stats and whatnot. So that's cool, and hopefully I can help you guys out in that regard. I have a bunch of stuff. I calculate fantasy scores. We'll go over that a bit later. But hopefully we can find some good spots as we go through this. This is how I find my spots too. So we're going to be doing it live together. I do have a few spots already that I'll mention as we go through it. But mostly I'm going to be figuring it out right now. And then we'll go over DraftKings. But again, I didn't have a chance to make a chart this week. So we're going to go off the app and I'm just going to go through it for you guys fighter by fighter. So we're going to start with PrizePicks. The first category is fight time. It's literally just an over-under on the fight. They list it with the favorite. In my charts, I have the underdogs as well because you need both fighters to be able to cap the fight time. It takes two to tango, right? So for the first fight, I've got Rodriguez versus Vergara. You'll notice I've got two columns with the under-overs. The first one, what's up, Kiarix? Thank you, brother. So the under-over is set at 12.5 minutes, and that's the first column right there. That's the PrizePicks, what they set it at. And then the one right over on the right, that's what the books have it as. I like to compare it because sometimes if you're going to go a certain way, over or under, it might be better to just do it on a book. So if I notice that, I'll mention it. Anyways, now for the Rodriguez-Vergara fight, it's set at the same for both. For Rodriguez, it's hit 1 of 5 times. We don't have a lot of the times for his fights on Tapology, so I'm not exactly sure how skewed it is. So I'm not going to be playing this, but he's hit this 1 of 5 times. He's gone over. Vergara's gone over 6 of 10 times. And I do think this fight goes to decision. I'm fairly confident in that. I personally don't want to bet it, and if I did, I would just go on the books because look, for PrizePicks, if you haven't used it before, you have to pick at least 2 people or 2 whatever props, players, whatever. You got to pick 2, and it's like a parlay, right? You got to hit both, and then you triple your whatever your stake is. You can go with more players. You can do 3, 4, 5, and then it increases how much you'll make, but it's also riskier. I personally don't play those. I stick to 2 a pop, and so that's how I do it. But I'm not going to be playing Rodriguez Vergara. I'm not interested in that one. Then we got Ivanov versus De Lima. It's also set at 12.5 on both PrizePicks and the books. And for this one, they're like polar opposites. You look at Ivanov, 5 fights in the UFC. He's gone the distance for every single one of them. And then De Lima on the other side, in his last 10 fights, he's gone over that 12.5 minute mark 1 time, just once. So this is another one where it's like, it's hard to tell what's going to happen, right? Ivanov can take a shot. So does De Lima get him out of there? If he doesn't do it in the first round, I don't think he does it at all. And I personally don't think he gets Ivanov out of there. But then it's a question of, all right, what does De Lima look like in round 2 and 3 when he's exhausted? If he can't get Ivanov down, he can't knock him out. I think he's going to start wilting really quick. He's a great hammer and a horrible nail. So, excuse me. I just feel like there's too many unknowns on this fight, so I wouldn't suggest playing this one either. But if I had to pick a lean, I would probably go. I don't even fucking know. I guess I'd go under because it's hard to trust De Lima, but I don't like that one. Next up, we got Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. So this is our first line with a difference between PrizePicks and the books. PrizePicks got this set at 10 minutes, so just 2 rounds. And then the books have it at 12.5 minutes, so 2.5 rounds. Royval has gone over those 10 minutes just 1 of 5 times in the UFC, 20%. And then Schnell's gone over that 10-minute mark 4 of 10 times, so 40% of the time. This is another one that I want nothing to do with. I think more than likely it goes under, but if I'm going to play the under, I'm going to play it on the book, right? Yeah, it's minus 145, so it's not as juicy as if I parlay it and triple the stake, but you can just play it straight, right? You don't have to, and you get more time also that way. If you think it goes over, then sure, do the 10 minutes. It's a shorter period of time. I just don't think that's the best move. Schnell, also a killer. I think his striking is great. It's hard to trust Royval a lot of the time, but I think that Royval can finish Schnell. I think that Schnell can possibly finish Royval. So I'm not going to be playing this, but I would probably lean under the 12.5. As for the 10 minutes on PrizePicks, I'm not sure. So I would avoid that one. Next, we got Williams versus Brown. The line is set at 11.5. My dog is being ridiculous on the floor right now. The PrizePicks is set at 11.5 minutes, and then on the books, it's 12.5 minutes. So just a 1 minute difference. And let's see. So Williams has hit this 2 of 5 times in the UFC, and Brown has hit this 4 of 10 in his last 10. You guys will notice I'll have last 10 on a lot of the vets, and that's because they have way too many fights. So I just keep it to the last 10. I don't really think that really old fights are telling, so I feel like the last 10 is good enough. Now, both of them are at 40%, and I think this goes over, but again, I won't be playing it. Both of these two are absolutely violent. Both of them get tons of finishes, and it's hard to go with this, right? They're both very tough, so they can go over. They could go the distance. It's possible. We've seen Williams go the distance with Matt Semmelsberger. We saw him go the distance with Michel Pereira. But will him and Brown? I would bet no. If I had to pick it, I would go the under for the book, at least the 12.5. But I'm not going to be playing this one either. Kjaric saying Schnell is cutting back down to 25. His last fight was at 35. Could be extra chinny. Yeah, it could be, but Schnell always fights at 125 for the most part, and I think that his last one was at 135 because I think it was short notice. I could actually double check real quick and see. Let's see. So, go here. All right. So, the Bontorin fight, no, it wasn't short notice. At least I don't have anything about it being short notice. So, yeah, I'm not sure why they went 135 there. Both of them are flyweights, so that's a little weird. But, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, maybe. But, I don't know. I just feel like he's only chinny, and he only gets chin-checked when it's, like, absolute violence and chaos. And that's exactly what Brandon Royval can do, right? So, it's incredibly, like, it's really possible that Royval finishes him. He definitely can. I'm leaning on the Schnell side, at least at those dog odds. So, but anyways, we'll move right on. The next fight, we've got Cerrone versus Lozon. PrizePicks has it set at 10 minutes. The books have it at 12.5, 2.5 rounds. Cerrone in his last 10, he's gone over 4 out of 10 times, so just 40%. Lozon 3 of 10 times in his last 10, so just 30%. And look, I think this definitely goes under. I think it'll probably go under the 10 minutes too, but personally, I have a money line bet on this. I believe I took the 2.5, and I definitely went under. I don't think I did the fight doesn't go, so I think I did the under 12.5, but I did that on the book. I have no interest in playing those 10 minutes on PrizePicks. If I'm going to play any of these times, like gun to the head, I got to play one of these, it would be probably the Royval Schnell one to go under the 10 minutes, if I had to. But I really don't want to play any of these, to be honest with you guys. Kjaric saying Lozon first minute KO, entirely possible. I don't think DraftKings offers me that. I know that they're the ones that offer the line, I'm pretty sure. But it's because I'm in New York. We just got legalized, and they're weird with the lines they offer us. But I don't hate it at all. I'm going to be playing Lozon round 1. I think it's like plus 1,500 or something, unless the line got moved down. I'm going to see what it's at when I get off of this. And, yeah, I don't hate that at all. But, yeah, I don't want to play this. They're so old, both of them. like I said, I think it goes under, but if Cerrone ends up winning, he's probably going to be able to stretch it, right? So, I don't know. If you're going to play the under, just do it on the books like I did. Minus 165 kind of sucks, but like 10 minutes, yeah, it's only 2.5 minute difference, but like a lot can happen in 2.5 minutes in the UFC, right? So, next fight, we got OSP versus Shogun Rua. Their line on PrizePicks is set at 9 minutes, and on the books it's set at 7.5. So the over is minus 150, the under is plus 120. And oh my god, I just almost spilled on myself. And I just remembered that I do want to play this fight doesn't go on the books. So I'm just writing it down for myself because I have a bad memory. Just got to see what those odds are. But yeah, I have this is like, just don't do this. Don't do this to yourselves. 9 minutes, OSP's gone over 4 of 10 times in his last 10. Rua has gone over 7 of 10 times in his last 10. And this is just such a mess of a fight, right? Like 7.5, 1.5 rounds. Do I think it'll go over that? I mean, it's possible, but there's so many unknowns here. Both of them are old. Both of them are kind of washed. But like, do you want to go? Like, I feel like 9 minutes, 7.5 minutes. Both of those are a bit short. I'm gonna be taking the fight doesn't go, like I said, on the books, but I really suggest not playing this on PrizePicks. The next one, Chandler versus Ferguson. This is another one where I would suggest the books. 11 minutes is what it's set at on PrizePicks. On the books, it's 7.5, so 1.5 rounds. And Chandler, in his 3 UFC fights, he's hit this 1 of 3 times. And Ferguson, in his last 10, he's hit this 6 of 10 times, so 60% of the time. And look, I just feel like 11 minutes is a bit too long here. I do think the fight goes, probably. Both of these guys are absolute monsters. They're both very tough. But look, over 1.5 is the way to go, in my opinion. Just play it on the book and call it a day. That's what I did, and that's what I would suggest. At minus 165, it's already getting a bit rough. I got it minus 155. But I really don't think that Chandler knocks Ferguson straight out. I really don't think so. So, I like the over 7.5, but I don't like it on PrizePicks. And the last one for the time, and then we can go to the more fun ones. Oliveira versus Gaethje. PrizePicks has it set at 12.5 minutes, 2.5 rounds, and then the sports books have it set at 7.5 minutes, 1.5 rounds. Oliveira, in his last 10, has gone over 12.5 minutes 1 of 10 times. And Gaethje, in his last, he's only had 9 UFC fights. He's hit it 4 of 9 times, 44% of the time. This one's going to be absolute violence. So if I had to pick one here, I'd go under for sure. The under 12.5, under 2.5 rounds. I think that's entirely possible to hit, but I don't want to play it. It's going to be violence. I'm happy with my Oliveira money line, so I'm not going to be overextending and trying to play that when I don't think it's going to necessarily hit either way. I just can't tell. So now we're up to the more fun stuff. Next category is significant strikes. This one can get interesting. I have an angle that I like to play. If somebody's a wrestler, and especially if they're like a Dagestani guy who's only throwing overhand rights and fancy kicks and then wrestling, those are the spots I really like. Somebody you would think that fits that category would have been Rodriguez. He's number 3 over there. We'll go over him. But he showed us in his last fight that he could put out a big output, even though that's how he fights. So this is going to be a weird one, but let's see what we can find. So for the first one, Garcia, he's set at 49.5. He's only had 1 Contender Series fight. That's the only numbers we've got, right? So also I want to remind everybody these are significant strikes. So ground strikes will often not count. They do sometimes, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure they do not. So we're looking for people who are going to land a lot of strikes standing or people who don't, and then we'll play their under, right? So Garcia 49.5. I don't know about this one. It's hard to know with like 0 data on him, but I will say that I think that he's not going to put away Journey Newson. I think that Journey Newson has struggled in the UFC because he's been fighting guys who are tremendously bigger than him, and that's not really the case here. Garcia is not that much bigger than him, so I think this is going to be a stand-up fight with 2 guys who've got a striking background. I'm not sure what it is for Garcia. I believe it's boxing as well, but I know for Journey Newson, his background is boxing. I always mix him up with Tony Gravely, who's a wrestler, not a striker, but they're not the same person, even though they kind of look like it. And yeah, so if I had to pick, I'd pick the over on the 49.5, but I don't suggest this one. Too little data, no reason to, stake your money on something that we just don't have enough information on. Next, we've got Lupita Godinez. 41.5 is what it's set on, and this one's interesting, right? So she's never hit it, right? And the only time she got even close was when she fought Jessica Pena, and she got 40 there, right? She only needed 2 more strikes and she would have hit this. So if I was convinced that she can hold down Carnelossi for the whole fight if she wanted to, I would bet the under here, because that's what the data seems to suggest here. But I think that Carnelossi is going to be difficult. I think that Lupita will get her down. I think that she will be able to hold her at some points, but you've also got to consider the person who took Carnelossi down for real in the UFC was Na Liang, and she's like 5'5". Godinez and Carnelossi are both 5'1", I believe. They're both the same exact size, really. So Lupita won't have that strength advantage here. In fact, I think she's going to be at a strength disadvantage. Just take one good look at Carnelossi and you can kind of get that vibe, right? So because of that, if I had to pick, I'm going to lean Godinez over, because I think that Carnelossi is going to make this a scrap, and I think Godinez is going to have to fight for it. I do think she wins, but I think she's going to have to fight for it, and I think it's going to take more than 41.5 strikes for her to win this fight. So I do lean for her to go the over. Will I play it? Maybe. I'll underline it rather than bold it. Bold means I want to play it. We'll call underlining a lean. So we'll move on, though. Rodriguez, 69.5. He's hit this one times. He's just had his one contender fight. Otherwise, I don't have any stats for him. So, look, this is another one where I think it does go over. I think that him and Vergara are going to go to war too. I think it's going to be a really, really fun striking fight. I think that Vergara is going to bring it to him. I'm not sure that Rodriguez is going to be able to KO him. I mean, it's possible. The kid is really good. But look, he's 24 years old. He's making his debut on a huge pay-per-view. Vergara did the same, but he already did it. He did it at 268. I was there. Excuse me. I do think this goes over. I think we're probably going to go to decision, and I think it's going to be a high number striking affair. But again, too little numbers, not enough information. I wouldn't suggest playing it, but I can't blame anyone either, right? He covered it by a significant margin in his last fight. But again, you also need to think about it this way, right? So his last fight against Santo Curatolo, where he hit those 91 strikes, he's very good. He's a good wrestler. But he's very small. He's a very small guy. So it wasn't hard for Rodriguez to keep his distance and just let it rip. Will it be as easy against Vergara? I don't think so. So I do think it's going to be a closer fight than his last one for sure. I do think he'll probably cover 69.5, but I don't want to play it. The next one, Cortez, 60.5. She's covered this 3 or 4 times. The only time she didn't was her second to last fight. And I actually don't remember who exactly that was. I'm blanking right now. I know her last one was Justine Kish. Oh, and the one before that was Stephanie Egger. That's that number right there. The 20W for her past numbers. So, for this one, I guess my reasoning for why I think it's going to go over is kind of similar to the Godinez one. It's just I don't love the number. It's a bit higher, so I would rather play the Godinez line. For this one, 60.5 for Cortez. She's hit it 3 or 4 times, right? She's covered. Her output is pretty good. Her striking isn't amazing, I would say. It's a little basic for my taste, but her grappling is fantastic. It's just, I think Gato is going to make this difficult. I think that maybe she gets held down for a round, but I think after that, she's going to make it very hard for Cortez to hold her down, especially because we've seen Cortez with some gas tank issues. So, while I think it goes over, I'm not going to play it because there's a lot of unknowns. I think that, look, if she does get her way, right, and holds down Gato the whole time, maybe they don't cover 60 strikes. Because, again, on the ground, it's hard to get a significant strike. It's mostly never counted as that. So, I don't know. I lean over, but I don't want to play it. So that's how I feel there. Next, we got Trinaldo, 40.5. He's hit this 2 of 10 times, and I do think I'm probably going to play this at least once. I like it quite a bit. I think that his fight with Dwight Grant was incredibly similar to what this fight is going to look like. I think that Dwight Grant and Roberts have a lot of similarities in regards to how they fight. And I think that Trinaldo's probably going to lose. And regardless of whether he wins or loses, let's think about it this way, right? He can KO Roberts, in which case he'll probably be under the 40.5. He could go to decision with Roberts, but recently he's been very low output in his last 3 fights. He hasn't even gone over 40 strikes. And I think there's going to be some grappling involved too. So, do I think Trinaldo goes over 40.5? I don't. I think it goes under, and I'm probably going to play it. It's a bit low of a number for an under. It could be a bit risky, but I kind of like it. Next, we got Blagoy Ivanov. 54.5 strikes is what the line is set out on PrizePicks. He's hit this 3 of 5 times, 60% of the time. And the reason I don't want to play this is very similar to why I didn't want to play the time prop here, and it's because this fight is so volatile. It's a very volatile fight, because if Ivanov gets his way, this is going to be a standing affair that's going to go 15 minutes, and Ivanov is going to probably cover fairly easy. Now, how does he not cover? If Rogerio de Lima KOs him in the first round. I don't think it happens, so I think he covers, and I'm still deciding whether I want to bet him money line or not. But because I'm leaning that way, I would lean that he does cover. But it's also like, all right, he's still not a crazy output, right? So if De Lima makes it out of round 1, what's he going to look like against a guy like Ivanov? Is he going to be able to even keep it up, or is he going to get finished? Because if he gets finished, again, we're not going to cover the 54.5. So for those reasons, I'm not interested in that one. Roy Val, 32.5. He's hit this 2 out of 5 times, so 40% of the time. And once again, 2-2 volatile, right? When he went to decision in his last fight, he just barely covered it. Yes, a lot of it was on the ground. Him and Bontorin makes a lot of sense. It was on the ground. I think that Schnell is going to try to keep this up. If it's up on the feet and they can make it out of round 1, I think this gets covered fairly easily. The big question is, does it get out of round 1? That I don't know. That I'm not positive about. I think it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a sweat if you do have it getting out of round 1. So for 32.5 for the under-over on strikes, I do lean that it goes over, but I'm not going to play it either. Dumont, 62.5 is what hers is set at. 3 out of 4 times it's hit, and I do think this hits once again. So I will be on it. And here's why. I think so because I think this is going to be another striking affair. And I don't think that Dumont finishes Chiasson, and I don't think that Chiasson finishes Dumont. So what happens? I think it's going to be a war on the feet. I think it'll be close. And I guess there is reason to worry about it because, look, you see the 65 W on her most recent one. But that was against Aspen Ladd in a 5-round fight. In 5 rounds, she just barely covered. But the fight before that against Felicia Spencer that took place on the feet entirely, 68 in 3 rounds, right? So it's a little bit tough to know exactly how it's going to go. But because I think both of these two are just going to be striking on the feet, I think this is going to go over more times than it won't. So I'm going to be playing the 62.5. Williams at 49.5. Again, way too volatile. We just don't know, right? Him and Brown are both so violent. Williams has covered this 2 of 5 times, only 40% of the time. And both times were when he went to decision. The big question is here, do they make it to decision? And do I want to bet on that? No. I don't want to worry about that. I think they're going to be going to war. I've got my money line play on Randy Brown. I want to sit back, relax, and watch him hopefully win. I don't want to be worrying about the strikes here. I feel like it's going to be too greasy, so I'm not going to play that one. Cerrone, 57.5. He's covered the 6 of 10 times. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but volatility is just too high here. Lozon can just murk him in round 1, and then you're never going to see that number, 57.5. Lozon could not finish him, and then Cerrone will probably cover, But again, what if Lozon is just dead after round 1 and then Cerrone finishes him? I know Cerrone doesn't really finish anybody anymore, but it's Joe Lozon. He's also kind of washed at this point. So, again, just too much volatility there. OSP 31.5. He's hit this 4 of 10 times. And I think it probably goes under, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be a very low output fight with probably a finish. I don't think it goes the distance. And because of that, I think it might be hard for OSP to cover that 31.5. But such a low number. Why play it? I don't see a point. So I'll be dubbing that. Chandler at 60.5 strikes. I've got this played on a bunch. I think I got it at a little bit better. I believe I got it at like 58 or 59. But I don't hate 60.5 either. I think that this is going to be a 3-round fight. Ferguson is very difficult to finish. It took Gaethje almost 5 rounds, right? So I don't think that Chandler is going to do it. I don't think he finishes Ferguson. I do think he wins. But I think he hits the 60.5 fairly easy. The only reason I'm not bolding it is because I already have it played, and I don't think I want to extend any more than I have. Maybe a bit, but we'll see. But I do like this play a lot. I really like Chandler over 60.5 still, even though it's a bit higher than what I took it at. I might still take it here too. And then you'll notice I've already got Rose bold. And honestly, I had no idea the numbers looked like this, but when I saw it, I was like, all right, I like this. So 85.5 is what it's set at. And now we look at her last few fights, right? So we got 86 strikes in her last fight against Weili Zhang. Bunch of ground game there on both sides. Some control on Weili's side, some control on Rose's side. And what happens? Rose just barely covers this by 1 strike. 1. I think that Esparza and Rose are going to spend a lot more time on the ground. I think that they're going to be on the ground for a good portion of the fight, and because of that, I think it's going to be hard for Rose to let go. I think that, like, you look at the last time she's gone over this, right? It was against Joanna. Also, I have this as... Yes, okay. I thought I got the numbers wrong for a sec. Yeah, that was Joanna. And they were on the feet for pretty much the whole fight. They were on the feet. That was a striking affair. I think that this is going to be a bit more of a mixed martial arts bout. I think that we're going to see a lot of ground time. And while I do think that Rose wins, and I got a money line play on Rose, I do think that she's probably not going to land more than 85.5 strikes. So I really like the under here. I have not played it yet because I didn't realize until I made the chart. But I play too. And then Charlie Olive's 41.5. He's only covered this 2 of 10 times in his last 10. 20% of the time. And again, too volatile. Just too much volatility here for me to want to play this. I think that he can choke out Gaethje quick. I think Gaethje can knock his head off quick. I think they can maybe last a little bit longer. So many unknowns. You look at him and Poirier, he did make it to 73 significant strikes. So maybe if you think this fight is going to be a similar kind of matchup, then maybe you think that Oliveira goes over this. But because of the violence here and the volatility, I want nothing to do with this one. I know I keep sounding like a broken record with the volatility, but I think this card is going to be just a ton of finishes. So it's hard to really pick good spots with that in mind. So this next category is fantasy scores under the PrizePicks scoring system. I am going to hop into the bathroom real quick for 30 seconds before we continue, and then I'll go over the scoring. Like they're I'm blanking. They're scoring whatever numbers. I'll go over the criteria and whatnot, and then we'll go through my list. All these numbers are not that you see on your screen are not available anywhere else. As of now, I'm the only one sitting here calculating these like a schmuck, and hopefully they can help you guys out like they helped me. Knock on wood, we've had a pretty good run on PrizePicks lately, and hopefully we can keep it going. I've been hitting a good amount of the fantasy scores, and hopefully we'll pick some good spots. I will be right back. Give me 30 seconds. Alrighty, hopefully that was 30 seconds. You know what I was thinking about today? I watch a lot of other shows, handicappers and whatnot, and there are people going 2-3 hours with no bathroom break. Do you not have like a bladder? How do you not have to pee over 3 hours? Crazy to me. I take tons of bathroom breaks in my short shows, so I don't know. I was just thinking about that. But anyways, fantasy scores. Let me go over the scoring criteria, and then we're going to break it all down. So the way PrizePicks does this, right? Two big differences that I've noticed with this and DraftKings. First of all, PrizePicks does not score ground control like DraftKings does. So whereas in DraftKings, somebody who takes someone down and then gets blanket control for a very long time, they're going to be a very high scorer for you on DraftKings. But those same people, if they're not getting a ton of takedowns, they only need a few to hold the person down, they're not going to score high for you on PrizePicks because they're not going to be getting a lot of points for you. Now, Kiarix, yeah, I know. I'm the only one, and it's crazy to me. I don't understand how are these people robots? I don't know. I think it's probably because I'm drinking like 4 White Claws every show, so that might have something to do with it. But still, I'm the only one. Exactly, Kiarix. That's exactly why. But anyways, yeah. So the ground control is the first thing, and the second thing to consider is takedown defense, right? So DraftKings doesn't score takedown defense. PrizePicks does. 3 points per takedown defended. And most of the time, this doesn't cause a big difference, but if they're fighting somebody who shoots tons of takedowns and misses, they can rack up a lot of points. If somebody defends, say, like 10 out of 13 takedowns, they just racked up 30 points. So it's another thing to always consider. You got to consider the matchups and think about, is the other person going to be shooting and giving away free points to you? Another thing to think about, especially if you're looking at an under. So, so the criteria, each strike is 0.6 points. So 100 strikes, you're going to get 60 points. Then a takedown is 6 points. A submission attempt is 5 points. A takedown defense is 3 points. A knockdown is 12. And then the finish bonuses, round 1 finish is 100 points. Round 2 finish is 75 points. Round 3 finish is 50 points. Round 4 finish is 30. It's 30. And then round 5 is 25. And then a decision is 20 points. So, all right, let's do this. Garcia set at 80.5. And he's only had one fight in the Contender Series. He did cover this because he got a very quick knockout and he got a knockdown. So that was more than enough. You get the 100 points right away, and he covered this. Here, I think he goes under, and I think I'm going to play that, right? So first of all, I've got to bet on Journey Newson. And already, if I think Garcia is going to lose, by default, I think he's going to go under, right? It's very difficult for somebody in a loss to cover still. It does happen, particularly when they're getting tons of takedown defense. But here, I think this is going to be a striking affair with not that much points going on. I don't think that Garcia finishes Newson. I don't think he knocks Newson down. I think if anyone's going to get a finish, I think it's going to be Newson knocking out Garcia. So, with all that said, I'm going to be playing the under here for Garcia, the under 80.5. I do think he probably loses the fight, making his debut. I think he's still very green. I think his striking is really good, and I think technically, striking-wise, he's probably better than Newson is. But he also is tremendously hittable. You watch him on the regionals, he's getting not beat up, but he's getting hit a lot. You watch him even in his Contender Series fight. He got outstruck by Joshua Weems before getting that finish. So, I have no interest in playing Garcia over, so I'm going to be playing the under here. The next one, we got Godinez. She's set at 75.5. She's only gone over 1 of 4 times, right? And that time was when she... Silvana Gomez Juarez, right? That's when she finished her in round 1. She got a really high score, 141.6. But look, that was Silvana Gomez. Like, she's really not that great. I'm not even sure if she's still in the UFC. If she is, she's probably only got one more chance left. And I think that, look, I have Godinez winning this, but I think it's going to be very close. I think that Carnelossi is going to make it hard for Godinez to be getting her takedowns. And because of that, I think that even in a win, Godinez might not cover this. Just like in her last win, she didn't cover this. and I don't think she's going to be able to again, even with a W. So I will be playing. I won't be playing. Wait, sorry. I will be playing the under. Anyways, let's continue. Rodriguez set at 93.5. He has not covered this just yet. His last one, he scored 91.6, but over 3 rounds with no finish, that is pretty impressive, especially because he didn't grapple either. So this is all just striking. And also, this is another example of a lot of takedown defense, because Caratolo is a very good grappler, but he was very small, and he couldn't take down Rodriguez. So Rodriguez was able to score a lot with the takedown defense, like I mentioned before. Why don't I want to play this? It's because I just don't know what this fight is going to look like. I think most likely it's a striking affair for 3 rounds and just an absolute war. But it's really hard to cover 93.5 over 3 rounds with no wrestling. So I won't play it. I wouldn't suggest the under either, because he could go off. He could hit Vergara with something ridiculous and knock him out. Rodriguez is a very talented fighter, a very talented striker, and I think that he's going to be a menace as time goes on. He's only 24 years old. He's still got a lot to improve. But I'm not sure this is the time to be betting such a high number over, and I don't want to go under either, because I do think that he has potential to finish. Next, we got Cortez. Her under-over is set at 77.5. She's covered this 3 or 4 times in her UFC career. Again, the only time she didn't cover this was against Stephanie Egger. She's normally getting tons of takedowns. She's getting enough strikes to add to the count, and then she finishes it off normally with the 20 points for the decision bonus, and that's why she's getting the comfortable 85, 86, 79. Look, I think Gato wins, so by definition I should be going under. I don't want to, because I already have money on Gato, and I'm not supremely confident. So I don't want to be playing it here either. I don't want to be betting against Cortez here. If she gets her way, she's going to cover this probably. I guess another thing to look at is, what if she gets the takedowns, but she's able to hold Gato down? Then she might not cover, right? Because I said control time's not counted here. So again, too many unknowns. I don't think it's a good spot. Trinaldo 73.5. I think this is a good spot. He's covered this 3 of 10 times. I'm going to bold this right away. And you look at his last few fights, man, other than his finish of, I'm blanking on his name. I think very highly of him, actually. Fuck. I'll pull it up real quick. Jai Herbert. So that was the one finish recently where he scored 102 points. But look, otherwise, let's see. Jorge Sandoval saying, not sure if you play on Underdog Fantasy. I do. Sometimes they do have good lines too. And he's saying Rose at 90.5 significant strikes, smash the under. Yeah, that's great. That's even better than what we got offered here on PrizePicks. If you have Underdog Fantasy available, check that out. 90.5. I would play the under all day long there. Like I said before, I think she wins, but I think it's going to be on the ground a lot. So something to consider. I like that. Thank you, Jorge Sandoval. We got 3 live viewers. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you on this Wednesday night at already 9:49 over here in New York. But all right, so I like Trinaldo under big time. He's super low output now. He's not really getting KOs or knockdowns. He did against Jai Herbert. I don't see it really happening here. So I will be playing the under. I like it. I have him losing anyways, so I do like the under here quite a bit. I think 73.5 is a bit too high for Trinaldo. Ivanov, 78.5. He's hit this only once of 5 fights in the UFC. And again, I think this goes under. I think in a W, Ivanov is going to go under. He's low output. I don't think he gets really too many takedowns here. I think, like I said before, it is possible he picks up a finish because De Lima is such a... he's a good hammer and a terrible nail. Literally a glass nail. He got subbed by Antigulov with a guillotine that wasn't even in. So that's where my pause is and that's where my concern is. But I do think that Ivanov in a loss or a win is going to go under this unless he finishes De Lima. That's the one thing to worry about. But I think I'm going to play the under at least once here. Royval, 94.5. He's covered this 2 of 5 times, 40% of the time. And again, I don't want to play it. I think that Royval can cause the chaos and possibly finish Snell in the first round. in which case he covers. And then if he doesn't do it, I think Schnell probably wins a decision. And then he goes under. So I'm not going to play that. I have no interest in playing that. I got my money line on Schnell, so I'm good there. And I don't suggest anybody else play that. Unless you think Royval wins, because then you think Royval wins in round 1, probably. And even if you think he wins in round 2, 75 points, say he gets a few takedowns, maybe he gets a sub attempt or two, throws a few strikes, he should cover that 94.5. So if you like him to win, sure. I'm betting against him, but I still acknowledge how dangerous he is, so I'm not playing him. Dumont, 82.5. She's covered this 1 of 4 times in her only 4 UFC fights. And here's another under that I like. Another under. I don't think she finishes Macy. I really, really don't think she finishes Macy. Maybe she gets a few takedowns, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really get a crazy high score. Is she going to knock Macy down? I really, really don't think so. So how does she cover this? She doesn't. It's going to be very, very hard for her to cover this, and I don't think she will. So definitely give me the under here. I like it a lot for Dumont. Next, we've got Williams, 81.5. 3 of 5 times he's covered this. And this is another interesting one. It's like, again, I think he loses, right? So I think it should go under. But just like Royval, I acknowledge the dangerousness of chaos. And 81.5, he can get around 2 KO, and he's going to cover that fairly easily. He can even get around 3 KO, because if they make it to round 3, you got to imagine he's got at least 40, 50 strikes, right? So he should be able to cover that 81 as well, especially if he picks up a knockdown when he gets that KO. So because of that, because I think he loses, but I acknowledge how dangerous he is, I won't be playing Williams 81.5 either way. Cerrone, 87.5. He's hit this 3 of 10 times. You've got to think this goes under, even in a W. Does he finish Lozon? I don't know. I think it probably goes to decision if Cerrone wins. I think Lozon could cream him. And if you're on that side, then you got to go Cerrone under, right? If you think Lozon runs through him, you got to go under Cerrone. I think that Lozon's able to do it. That's why I'll be sprinkling his round 1 prop. But I don't think it's an incredibly likely outcome, so I'm not going to play it here. OSP, 97.5. I hate this. He's hit this 2 of 10 times. I'm going to lean big time no under, but I'm not going to play it either because Rua's also washed. It's a silly thing to play. I would really not suggest it. Chandler, 98.5. He's hit this 1 of 3 times. Look, I think he probably goes under here, right? Even though it's going to be a war, you look at the Gaethje fight. So he scored 67.8 on Gaethje. Now let's say he got that decision, right? He clearly lost it, but let's say he got it. That would have only been 87 points, and he got like 103 strikes there, only 1 takedown. Maybe he can score a lot more with takedowns here against Ferguson, but I'm not necessarily sure that's what he's going to do. I think he just might oblige Ferguson and strike with him for 3 rounds. In that case, I think this is going to be a hard number to cover. It's possible, but I think it's going to be difficult. I would lean the under, but there's just spots that I like better, so I'm not going to play it. Namajunas, 105.5. She's hit this 4 of 10 times. Look, I think it's live too. Again, for the same reason I think the strikes are going to go under, even though I think Rose wins. But because I think Rose wins, because I think Rose is dangerous, because I think she's always still live for a finish. Look, for her first fight with Joanna, she knocked Joanna out in round 1. In her first fight with Wei Li, she knocked out Wei Li in round 1. Both of those fights the second time went to decision. Her first Esparza fight, she lost by finish. So, if you're going to go with the trend, Namajunas is going to... Well, she could lose still, but the result is going to be in some way different. I do think Rose is live for a KO still, so I'm not going to play it, but I can't blame anyone for betting the under here. I think it's still a solid spot. And then Oliveira, 100.5. You see, I already have a note there. In his last 10 fights, he has covered this 8 of 10 times. That's a tremendously high number. 80% of the time, Oliveira's covered. And if you think he wins this fight, you've got to think that he covers this. Look, he finished Poirier in round 3, still covered, because he got a bunch of strikes in. They were striking for a good amount of time. He went for his sub attempts, and he didn't even get any takedowns, so he didn't even get those points, and he's still covered. I think that Oliveira is entirely live to finish Gaethje after round 1, maybe even in round 1. I don't think so, but I think it's still live. I think Oliveira wins, and because of that, I have to think that he covers this score. So I will be playing it. I'm not going to play it a lot. I like a bunch of spots better than that, but I will play it. Now, the few spots that I already have played, I'll go over. Oh, wait, no. We have one more category. Then I'll go over my spots. And then it's already 47 minutes in. I'm going to blast through the DraftKings after this because I don't have charts for it anyway, so I'm not going to waste everybody's time. We'll fly through it, and then we'll call it a day. Let's finish up this last category, though. For live viewers, thank you guys for being here. Cheers on this Wednesday night. And let's keep going. So, Godinez 3 takedowns is what it's set at. She's covered this 2 of 4 times, 50% of the time. And this is one, I think she's going to cover this. I think she's probably going to get her takedowns. I think Carnelosi's going to get right back up because she's ripped and she's very difficult. And I think Godinez is going to keep going for those takedowns. So I do think she covers 3. When they're fighting somebody who's very good at get-ups, but they're not good at takedown defense, this is a good thing to look at. And I think that's going to be the case here. So I do like Godinez 3 takedowns over. And I believe I already have it played. And then Cortez. Oh no, next is Rodriguez. 2 takedowns. Yo, we're going under here. We're going under here 1,000,000%. I think someone made a mistake. I don't know what they're thinking. Rodriguez isn't a ground guy. He's a striker for the most part. I really don't see him going for takedowns here. I'm not sure who thought this was a good idea, but I'm definitely going under here. Some intern's going to get fired. Cortez 2.5 is what she's set at. I think this goes over, man. Even though I have Gato winning, Gato doesn't have the best takedown defense in the world. She's probably going to get taken down here. Now, why do I have 7% there? Sorry about that. It's supposed to be 75%. I do hand entry for all of this, so I do make mistakes. Yeah, I think Cortez covers. I think she takes Gato down. Gato's going to play from guard a decent amount. She's going to make it difficult, I think, to hold her down sometimes. There is a possibility that Cortez does just control her. If you think that's the case, then don't play this. But I think that she's going to have to work for the control. And because of that, I think Cortez goes over. So 2.5, I'll play it for the over here. Ivanov, 1.5. I don't want to play this at all. I think it goes under. I don't really see him taking down De Lima much. Maybe once De Lima's gassed, but I don't want to play it. Like, does anyone really want to play this? I wouldn't suggest it. He's hit it 2 of 5 times, so like, I guess you have something to hang your hat on. But also, I noticed that my camera's a little blurry right now. I do apologize about that. It's because of my lighting, but not really sure what to do. So we're just gonna keep trucking on. Next up, we got Dumont, 1.5 takedowns, 1 of 4 times she's covered this. I don't think she's going to be going shooting takedowns here. So I'm not sure why they set it at 1.5. I think it goes under. Because I like Cortez and Godinez better here, I'm probably going to stick to them, and I don't think I'm going to play Dumont. But it's not a terrible look. I don't see it happening. Now, Chandler, 1.5. I like this. He's never hit it. He's only gotten 1 takedown against Gaethje. But he seems to know that he's going into this against, like, he knows what he's dealing with, and he's said it in his interviews. So I do think he's going to be a little bit smarter here, and I do see him going for at least 2 takedowns, and I think he gets them. So I like this. I do like it. I haven't played it yet, but I will be playing Chandler over 1.5. And now Esparza at 4, I just think the number is way too high. Look, in her last 10 fights, even though she's won most of them, she's only hit this 2 of 10 times, 20% of the time. It's a really high number. 4 takedowns is a lot. Now, that said, this is a 5-rounder, so she's got a lot more time to accomplish that. I can't blame anyone for taking it, the over 4, but I'm not going to be. I think that it can go either way, and because of that, I don't want to bet on it. So that's that. The picks that I have so far already played are Godinez over takedowns, Cortez over on the takedowns, and I have Chandler over the strikes. And you know what I just noticed, actually? I played Trinaldo under takedowns, and they took him off. They took him off the list. I'm looking at it now. They deadass took him off the list, so that's kind of whack. They had him set at 1.5, and I did play it because I don't think he's going to get even one takedown, let alone two. But look, they took it right down. That's crazy. They've only done it one other time that I noticed, and it was when Jared Cannonier fought Brunson. I guess one of the interns got high and then just decided to fill it out, and they put Cannonier getting two takedowns instead of Brunson. And like, no shit, you hammer the under there. That line went down so quick. Oh, Kiarik saying he's hyped for this press conference tomorrow. Same. It should be a lot of fun. Ferguson's coming in here hot. You see, if anybody saw him today with his interviews, he's upset. John Morgan was like laughing about his Dana White privilege joke, and Tony was not having it. He's like, you think that's funny? I don't think it's funny. Like, he was not having it. But anyways, that's it for PrizePicks. There are a bunch of PFL lines too for the PFL fights, and I'm sure they're going to add a few for the time props for Bellator. I'll try to dig through those for you guys. It's a little bit harder for me because there's no numbers, no stats really to work with there. But I've been able to find some good spots in PFL where I think somebody's either, if I think they're not going to win and they're the favorite, so PrizePicks has them listed for the fantasy score, I'll normally go under there. Or, I'm blanking now. All right, we're just going to keep going. But I'll bring it up if I find any spots on my Twitter. Follow me at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter. That's where I put all my picks for bets, prize picks, and whatnot. It's all there. So follow me there if you haven't already. Yeah, and now we'll run through DraftKings real quick. Like I said before, I normally have a chart for this stuff. I do not now. And we've already done 53 minutes. I really don't want to go any longer than like an hour, so we're gonna run right through this. While I think I'm great and I think I'm decent at DraftKings, there's a bunch of other shows too who go more into the numbers, so I will plug at least one. My boys over at Pub Sports Radio, they did one today for DFS. It was Lou Betya was over on there. Monk and Wheezy are on there every week. Normally Brady and Luke are there too, but both of them are off this week. Really good show. They go a bit more into depth than I do on DraftKings, but like I said, pretty sure I'm the only one who does PrizePicks stuff, so at least I have that going. But now let's run through this DraftKings real quick. Chandler at 9,600. It's hard to want to play him at 96 because Ferguson's got a chin. Ferguson might not go down. And then how is Chandler going to cover this for you? Is he going to get a ton of wrestling? Maybe. Is he going to get a ton of output? Maybe. But covering 9,600, it's going to be hard for him. I actually have him in so many lineups right now, and after thinking about it a lot, I'm going to go and change it. If I'm going to go this high, I'm probably going to play Fialho over Chandler, because look at the opponent difference. Chandler's fighting Ferguson, and you can say he's washed all you want, but he's still Tony. He's still tough. He's still tough to finish, and he's always going to be there. Whereas Fialho's fighting Van Camp, a guy off the regionals who really is not up to Fialho's level, in my opinion. I think Fialho's going to chin check him quick, and I think he's going to do it very viciously. So, while I'm going to have exposure to both of these fellas for sure, in both GPPs and cash, it's just Chandler is a very high number at 96, and it's hard to get behind that against someone like Ferguson. So, that's for the first two. Cleats and Rodriguez, I'm going to fade. I don't think he's going to cover the 9,400 price tag. I think he wins the decision. I don't think he's going to cover Brandon Royval, 9,300. I mean, you've got to have exposure to both Brandon and Schnell on GPPs, in my opinion. Especially Royval. I think he's live for a finish at all points of the fight. At 9,300, I don't love the price tag, especially because I think Schnell could win the fight. But you have to have exposure to him on GPPs, in my opinion. I think he will be live for a finish, as he always is. OSP versus Rua at 9,200. I couldn't fade it harder if I wanted to. I'm not going to touch that at all. I'm not going to be playing Rua either, even though he's very cheap. Why? Why would I do this to myself? There's 30 fighters on the slate. I'm good with fading these two, so I'm not going to be playing OSP. Norma Dumont at 9,100 is another one that I'm just going to fade. She's not going to finish Chiasson, in my opinion. I really don't think she does. So how does she cover for you? 9,100. I don't think she will. Lupita Godinez versus Carnelosi, the 9,000. I don't hate it, right? I don't hate it too much. Do I want to play her on GPPs? Well, I don't think she gets... Fuck you, Lou. Lou coming in here saying my hat is very big. You know what? It is big, Lou. You know what else is big? I won't say it. Now, my unit sizes. Not really. My units are mad small. But anyways, Lupita Godinez versus Carnelossi. They've got Godinez at 9,000. And honestly, yeah, look. So I don't think she gets a finish. She could be wrestling heavy here. She could get points that way. But is she going to hold her down? Like, I don't think so. I don't think she holds her down too much. So I think it's going to be a little difficult for her to cover the 9,000. I will have exposure to her. Cash or GPP, I'm not exactly sure. Probably a little bit of both. But I fuck with you, Lou. You're the man. But yeah. So I'm gonna fade Godinez for the most part, but I will have exposure to her on both GPP and cash. I'm just not sure that Carnelossi is the best matchup for her to score high. Rose Namajunas at 8,900. I will be playing her. I'm going to be playing both her and Esparza quite a bit. I think that Esparza is probably the better DraftKings play because I think she's got a very good chance to score very high, even in a loss. And then in a W, I think she's really going to score high here against Rose. And she's like on the lower spectrum of the salaries. What is she at? 7,300. So you got to love that. I will be exposed to both her and Rose, but I'm gonna lean over on the Esparza side for DraftKings, but I will have exposure to both, and I think it's a good play. Cerrone versus Lozon, another fade. Just not going to be betting on guys who are this washed. Tracy Cortez, 89.8 average score. She's set at 8,700 for her salary, and again, I think she can probably do decent. I have exposure to her mostly on cash because but I do have Gato winning, so then if Gato wins, she probably wins by finish. So then is Cortez really a good move for cash? I might move her off, actually. I think I'm going to get Cortez off of my cash plays, and I'm going to move her over to GPP. I am going to be exposed to both her and Gato on GPPs because I think Gato has the finishing capabilities here. But yeah, I like both of them for GPP. I don't like either for cash. And let's move right along. Fernie Garcia at 8,600 is going to be a fade for me. I just don't see how he's going to score high at all. And I think he's liable to get finished. Oliveira and Gaethje are must plays in my opinion. I was considering stacking them, but I don't think that's really the best move. I think if you're going to stack, I think Rose and Esparza are a decent stack, and I think that Chandler and Ferguson are a decent stack. I don't think I would want to stack Oliveira and Gaethje because I think they're both live to finish each other. But for GPP, you kind of have to play both because they're probably going to finish each other, right? So, Ivanov, absolute fade for me. Low output, doesn't really do much that's going to score high. Look at his average score. There's nothing to play here. Chaos Williams, 86.7 average score. He's 8,300 is his salary. Look, Williams is always live for a finish. I think that Brown is always also live for a finish. I'll play both of them on my GPPs. Not going to play either on cash. Trinaldo is a fade for me. I have no interest in playing him at 8,200 or at any price tag, really. The same goes for Roberts. Both of these guys, low scorers in wins and losses, so not going to be playing them. Randy Brown, like I just said, I will be playing him in GPPs because Chaos Williams carries a train in his hands. I'm not going to be fucking around with any of them in cash, but I will be playing both of them in GPPs. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, maybe I'll sprinkle him in like one GPP for like the low ownership dart throw, but otherwise I'm not going to be exposed to him. Gaethje, like I said, GPPs all day. Newson I like for cash and GPPs. I think that he's live to knock out Garcia. I think that he's going to beat Garcia even if they go to decision. At 7,600, he's going to provide you some salary relief and still have a finishing upside, so I do like Newson. Melissa Gatto at 7,500, I want nothing to do with her on cash, and I want everything to do with her on GPPs. I'm not going to have her on everything, but I will have some exposure. I do like her finishing capabilities. She's very dangerous. Joe Lozon, you kind of have to, right? You kind of have to. Because you play him in GPP, you never touch him in cash. That would be a terrible idea. But for GPP, he's live to get a very, very quick finish, right? And I'm pretty sure DraftKings also gives a bonus for a finish within the first minute. So he might be a good look. And I think he'll be relatively low owned. So I don't hate Lozon. I'll have him as well. Esparza, I mentioned earlier, I think she's a must play on both cash and GPPs for at least some of your lineups. For 7,300, she's fantastic salary relief. Carnelossi at 7,200. You know, I think she's worth playing on both also. Both cash and GPPs. I think that Carnelossi is live for a finish at maybe the round 3. She's incredibly strong and she has tons of finishing capability. But I think that she can also, for a cash game, even in a loss, for 7,200, I think she might cover. And that will allow you to spend more up top. Chiasson is another one for me. I'm going to be playing her on cash and not at all on GPP. 7,100, I think she's really good salary relief. I don't think she gets finished. I think in a loss, she'll still probably cover, and in a win, she'll definitely cover. So I do like that. Rua, I'm going to fade. Schnell, I'll play in only GPPs because I'm not entirely confident enough to put him in cash, especially with how volatile the fight will be and how violent Royval is. And then at the very tippy top bottom, no, it's not the tippy top bottom. Next, you got Vergara, 6,800. I'm going to, because I think it's going to be closer than the odds indicate, I'm kind of thinking maybe Vergara for like a cash play or two for 6,800, but like, I don't know. Rodriguez is really good. I really like him, so I'm not sure. Van Camp, I'm going to fade 6,700. I really don't think he finishes Fialho, and I don't think he wins in any way. And then Ferguson is the last fella at 6,600. I am playing him on a few cash games. I stacked him and Chandler on one. And at 6,600, look, I don't think he gets finished. So I think he will still cover this, even in a loss. Unless he gets absolutely bitched, which I really don't think will happen. And that's it. That's it, guys. If I pick anything for Underdog Fantasy, if I pick anything for PrizePicks for PFL or Bellator, I will post it on my Twitter at CouchWarriorPod. Yesterday I posted my regular breakdown, so check that out. It's even shorter than this show, I'm pretty sure, so that's dope. And then on Friday, I'm going to be with Lou over on the MMA Engine like we are every week now. We're going to do our show, The Bet Elevator, where we go and we compete on props for each fight. So whoever ends up with the biggest odds on the fight, they have to bet it. Last week I hit Shauna Young KO. I'm going to keep flexing that until I lose this week. So definitely check out the show this Friday at 8:30. And thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every one of you.